I was just listening to the end of the Al and Crystal Presti warm-up show.
How'd Chris do? I know he struggles with that.
Yeah, he struggles a lot with it.
Yeah.
And the disrespect coming your way out of that show was monumental. And I'm just sitting here just in utter disbelief, stunned disbelief, as we've all been down that stunned disbelief road before as Met fans. And what I'm talking about is Al was asking CeeLo, like who's the biggest Knick fan on the radio station?
Okay.
And they go through, obviously me, then it was Craig. Then there were other Knick fans, JJ, and I'm going, okay, guys. There is another morning show guy here. His name is Greg Giannotti. Is anybody going to mention Greg Giannotti when it comes to being a big Knick fan?
I thought CeeLo did in the very beginning of that cruise. Like, I have to hear from some Knicks fans. I know Boomer and Gio are going to talk about it coming up at the top. That's the last thing I heard. I missed the rest of that because I was doing other things.
They did not mention your name as the biggest Knick fan on the radio
fine.
station.
I don't care. I don't need to be associated with such an ineptitude.
It's
fine with me.
No, this is what happened. So Al asks the question of CeeLo, and CeeLo fumbles around with the question.
Well,
it's basically what that warm-up show is when CeeLo's sitting in for Jerry.
Yeah.
And to me, it was a backhanded slap to the head by CeeLo towards you, and Al was the impetus for all of it.
Yeah, well, it's all right. I mean, CeeLo, I give CeeLo a break because he struggles mightily with that warm-up show. It's been a problem for him for years. Al has talked about it publicly. I think he's better than Al says he is at it, but Al always has a problem, and it's tough. Like, the days before he has to host with CeeLo, it's all I hear about is, like, I can't sleep, I'm up all night, I got to carry this hour. I mean, when it was 15 minutes, it was fine. Now it's an hour with CeeLo. I mean, it's like, carrying around a backpack filled with rocks for an hour. So I tend to give CeeLo a break when he's stumbling around because it's just not for him. It's like when you see like a some sort of a sea mammal on the beach that's beached and it's flopping around, and you're like, man, someone needs to help. There needs to be a group of people to help that shark or porpoise or whatever get back into the water because that's where it belongs. That's sort of the way I feel about CeeLo in the warm-up show.
I know that I am, the oldest Knick fan of the group. I go all the way back to Walt Frazier and obviously Willis Reed and Bill Bradley and David Busher and Phil Jackson as the sixth man and Earl the Pearl Monroe coming in the early 70s.
We're up at the 69. And
yeah, you did.
So I go back to those years. So I understand why they would think that I was a huge Knick fan, but for the last 10 years, I've basically,
You've checked out, yeah.
I've checked out on it until this year. And, here's the reality of the sport. The reality of the sport is like what we saw last night. You can't always bring it every single night. You can't always have your best shooting nights. And when you have an off shooting night, you're going to end up losing the game.
Gets ugly.
But it's not in any way like I don't wake up this morning thinking, oh my God, I'm so disappointed. I feel like they're going to be hovering around 500, which is what I expect and which is what I hope, which I all hope is that I think we all hope that they actually do make it to the playoffs. But my God, the fact that you're the guy that's been talking Knicks since the day that I met you, to almost to the point where you bore the hell out of me. And then for CO not to recognize that the show that is following the warm-up show is Boomer and Gio.
Yeah.
And Gio happens to be this huge Knick fan, and then him not even include you in the list. I'm like, is he awake and aware of where he's working and who he's working for and, how this whole thing and dynamic seems to work out? I guess not.
You said this was the very end of the warm-up show, like the tail end. CeeLo's he sees the finish line. He's like, thank God I got here. This is very difficult for me. It's like finishing a marathon for him, that 1 hour. So that's probably where his mind was at. I mean, maybe you forgot last year when I was the only one that was saying that the Knicks were going to have a good season. Maybe you forgot the time I went and bought the crystals for the Zion Williamson draft and wore my 1993 Knicks starter jacket on the air. I mean, maybe you forgot about that. I don't know. But that's okay. I don't need those type of accolades, Boomer. It's not something that's important to me. I know what the truth is. I don't need CeeLo to validate anything in my life. I know what the deal is. I know that I'm watching these games and I'm getting fired up. And I want to be known as a great human being and a good talk show host. I don't need to be known as the biggest Knicks fan. That's all I care about.
The problem that I have is that, like, Al didn't even, like, suggest it to CeeLo. What about Gio? Like, he never even suggested it. Like, he just led him down this path.
I was looking for somebody who's over the top, like how Evan is over the top about the Nets, how you're over the top about the Rangers. I needed, like, is there an over-the-top person about the Knicks?
Yeah, his name's Greg Giannotti.
They've been
how long have you been listening to him?
But he doesn't, like, weave Knicks into every conversation like you do with the Rangers and how Evan does with the Nets. You know, I was looking for someone like, is there someone like that at the radio station?
No, because, and I did hear what CeeLo said in regards to this, where he was like, they've been bad for so long. Right? And that's true. I mean, it's not just you, Boomer, that, like, the passion has been beat out of people, but it's true. I mean, there's lots of us who care about the Knicks deeply and really had a attachment to them at some point in our lives that just, it's been so bad, it's been embarrassing, it's been the worst franchise in professional sports for a number of years, and you lose that, and that's why it's been fun to watch them at least compete this year.
You know, with all the things that you just said, up until, competing this year and with Thibodeau and, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, and all these guys, you just basically tore apart the organization.
Yeah.
Which is what Draymond Green says doesn't happen. Like, the organization never gets torn apart.
Sure.
These organizations, just as they go on about their business, and they never get torn apart. Well, the Knicks have been getting torn apart for literally 20 years.
Yeah. No,
20 years.
And deservedly so. And it's never, there's a lot of players who have come through here that we have trashed, but it's more about the fact that they've wasted draft picks. Like, when I look at Kevin Knox and Frank Ntilikina, I don't blame them as much as I blame the Knicks for drafting them. That's what I look at. There's some of these other busts that the Knicks have had. I don't necessarily say, well, this player is the problem. It's the organization is the problem by wasting pick after pick after pick. So, yeah, you are right. Did you see J.B. Bickerstaff, his response to Draymond Green? It was just like, basically, yeah, well, every opinion counts. Right. And, like, he didn't even defend the organization or anything. I was like, how do you, like, you got to be able to defend if you are the head coach.
They can't. I'm telling you, in the NBA, they can't.
Come on, why not? Defend the organization and be like, I didn't think that was a fair comparison. Draymond's entitled to his opinion, but that's not a fair comparison. If Draymond wants to talk to us about what's going on, hey, he's got my cell phone number. Something like that. Stand up for your team. If I was like the general man, if I was Kobe Altman out there or Dan Gilbert or somebody, I saw the head coach just basically, punt in a situation where he could have defended his organization for not doing anything wrong, I would have been pissed.
Dan Gilbert of the Cleveland Cavaliers has done that. He has stood up to LeBron James. He has stood up to other players and basically said, and defended his organization. Now, as far as, defending this particular rant by Draymond Green, I think we've pretty much covered all of that. But the point being, I want to get back to the initial point. The point being is that you do care. I mean, you care about the Knicks more than any other team. I don't know, your Vikings. I guess your love for the Vikings is big, but if I had to put it in order for you, the Knicks are number one for you.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that because the Vikings are different, and I am the guy who talks about it because there's not Viking fans around here. I'm more associated with that than anything else. But the passion for those three teams that I root for is just about the same right now with the Mets, the Vikings, and the Knicks. It's all on the same level. Now, I used to care about wanting to be known as the biggest fan. I used to have like a resume that I'd put together. And the thing that set me over the top with the biggest football fan was the fact that I went and got that Vikings tattoo, and that used to settle all arguments. I used to say that, like, oh, yeah, well, you got a tattoo of your favorite team? Did you go to training camp 5 years in a row? Did you go down to spring training? I used to care about those things. And then, Boomer, I grew up. And that's what happened. And now it's okay. It's been many years of working on myself. If CeeLo doesn't think that I'm the biggest Knick fan at the station, he's horribly wrong about that, then that's okay. I can let those things go. I can. I can't be getting all wrapped up in these things at this stage of my life.
See, this is a deterioration that is going on in regards to CeeLo. And it all started when he didn't show up for work that one day.
Yeah.
And it's progressively gone downhill. And ever since he's gotten around Craig and Evan, in the afternoon, it just keeps
it's a
festering
deterioration,
and festering.
Sure.
And this morning, I just thought it was completely disrespectful not to put you in that discussion. And therefore, I do think that this has been a reoccurring problem. Am I seeing things differently than everybody else? Eddie, you're usually a good person to go to in this regard. Do you believe that CeeLo is showing Gio and this show and us and everything that we built up over the years a lack of respect?
I do, but I don't think it's it's something he's aware of. It's so just sort of ingrained in him.
Yeah, so I have an example that I'll keep the details quiet, not to everybody, freak out about it. But that scuttlebutt we were talking about yesterday, I wanted to throw it at a couple guys today and see what they would say back to me, right? Just to see, So one of them, because I both know what's going on, both these guys. One of them totally tight-lipped. I don't know what you're talking about. No idea. Nope, sorry, not me, and left the conversation. The other one I threw at CeeLo. Oh, just let it all slip out. Just oh yeah, of course, yeah, this and that, whatever. Just totally didn't keep anything close to the vest. So I think you are right. He is unraveling. Things have changed. I mean, he didn't even protect a friend in a particular situation, just diarrhea of the mouth. I was like, wow.
All right, so that I'm not wrong then.
You're not wrong, no. I mean, the other guy I talked to was he's like Fort Knox. You couldn't get in. I mean, but CeeLo's just willing to regurgitate anything. So I did take note of that and made a personality judgment on both of those men. And I said, okay, now I know who to trust with a secret and who not to trust with a secret. That's what I did.
I think CeeLo is getting annoyed. He's running back and forth, from here to, the afternoon show to, Sirius, running all over the place.
He's got a lot of shifts. He should be happy,
What he needs is a legitimate, full-time, this is where I am job.
I agree with that.
And until
he
gets that, stability. And until he gets that, he is going to be, as he gets older, because this all happens to all of us, especially in this business, you become more annoyed. You don't have any sort of patience to deal with the nonsense that's happening around you.
I don't know what you're talking about, Boomer.
Right, exactly. and I think this is what's happening to CeeLo. It's happening right before our eyes, and I was aware of it a couple weeks ago, maybe even months ago.
Yeah.
But it's getting progressively worse.
Yeah, no, I think he'll be okay eventually, but you're right. He is in a time in his life right now where he's struggling. And the stability thing, listen, I've been rooting for that, hoping for that. We've all been pushing for that for a long time for him.
But he ain't hoping for you. I mean, he just totally glossed over the fact that you're a Knicks fan.
It's a little bit different, though, a little bit different.
No, it's not.
I think it is.
I mean, I know it's Knicks fandom. I get that, and how really important is that, but when you think about the discussion that Al and he were having and the fact that he did not, invoke your name as his passionate Knicks fan, just goes to show me that he's either not paying attention or he doesn't care anymore or he's just getting so ticked off that it's, things are just dropping by the wayside. That's all.
Yeah, I will say, though, in agreement with Al, there are a couple of guys, like Joe Beningo and the Jets, you and the Rangers, Evan and the Nets, that they are synonymous with one another. It's like you have those teams. Outside of that, and now Joe is retired, I mean, you don't have that with anybody else, which is fine. I mean, like Mike and Chris, you would associate Dog with the San Francisco Giants a little bit, but Mike with really kind of the Yankees, but not so much.
No, he was the Yankee. He was going to manage the Yankees. Don't you remember that?
Oh, yeah. No,
listen, he was going to manage the Yankees.
If they let me do it, I could do it. I mean, they won't let me do it. They don't have the guts to let me do it. But if they let me do it, I do it. I do a pretty good job of it, I think. Yeah, I remember that was one of the great things ever. And then I'm just envisioning him making a pitching change coming out of the dugout with the uniform on was one of my great mental images I've ever had. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't think he didn't feel like he lived and died with the team. Like yesterday, you were just miserable. You were Les Miserables over there about the Rangers, and I believe one of the lines you had was, this team is sucking the life out of me. I mean, that's what Al is talking about, so, I mean, it's a different type, it's a different level, I mean, I have chosen to, I believe it was after the Vikings lost the 2009 NFC Championship game. That season when Brett Favre was their quarterback, they lost it to the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
It was at that moment I
said...
said...
That was Bountygate game.
Yes, it was. It was that moment I said to myself, I can no longer allow the outcomes of these games to affect me in a way where it makes me physically ill. Because I was physically ill after that game. Because I was so upset. And I said, this isn't right. This isn't good. This isn't healthy for me to do that. So I need to stop doing that. You... I mean, at the ripe old age of, what are you now, 48 years old?
Yeah.
You're still letting yourself get physically ill over the Rangers, which I respect. Yeah. And I understand there's a lot of people in our listening audience that are the same way. But for me, I had to make a change. I did. I had to change that mentality. Being physically ill over something you can't control is not healthy.
I find I do this during Ranger games, and I don't even realize I'm doing it. And that's I stop breathing during the games.
Do you?
Yeah, somewhere like if there's a if there's a puck bouncing around by a net or something, and one of the Ranger defensemen are on his knees and his head's in the net or something like that. I stop breathing and I get very caught up in it. Yes, and I'm annoyed. And I'm annoyed when I don't see effort, and I'm annoyed when players are saying they're not giving effort and they're realizing that they're not giving effort. That's really an indictment of the players. So yes, I am caught up in it, but I just want to say that I've been sitting next to you for 3 years now, and your passion is for the Knicks. I see it and I've heard it. I just don't necessarily know that the other people around you, I thought maybe Al would know this. I think Eddie realizes this. I know Jerry Recco knows it. But the fact that CeeLo doesn't know it is really what bothers me. And I know that he's only here part-time. He only comes in every now and again. And to do the 5 o'clock warm-up show is a pain in the ass for him. I get all that.
Yeah.
Because of the weirdness and the awkwardness of Al Dukes. But what he did to you this morning, to me, just, again, reeks of a lack of respect. And I hope that you guys can come to, you should go talk to him and just find out, what's bothering him.
I will. I will do a deep dive.
Off air. I don't want to do this on air because, on air it could get ugly, and I don't want it to get ugly.
What was the last 20 minutes?
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, you want to do it on air? You did.
Well, I don't want to do it with him. I don't want to do it with him because then he's going to have to.
Oh, okay.
He's going to have to defend himself, and there's really no defending himself in this regard.
Sure. No, I do understand that. Speaking of Jerry, I've been thinking about him nonstop because he's going to have to fly back in the snow and everything else, and in the sleeping, and God knows he's not going to sleep. I mean, this whole week, so being in the same studio with Jerry, you want to talk about an unraveling. I mean, this poor guy, he doesn't sleep anymore. For whatever reason, he's up in the middle of the night. He tells me about the prostate and the peeing and the whole thing, and he can't go to sleep and everything. So now, on top of that, he's traveling. He's got to travel back in a snowstorm. God knows if he's going to get back. He's going to come in here tomorrow. If he does even make it here tomorrow, he's going to be a total zombie. So I hope for him that he's healthy, because that's another. We've got anchors unraveling all over the place here, Boomer.
You see, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that no sleeping going around these days.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.